Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, that felt uninspired. The Winnipeg Jets have lost to the Detroit Red Wings by a score. What was it? Is it 4-2? 4-2. They lost to the Red Wings by a score of 4-2 to give them their third loss in a row and their second loss of this 8-game homestand for them. But before we kind of get into the game, let me tell you, you can shift into hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your news source for all the biggest stories in hockey. Bring a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max, Daphne, and Kevin every Tuesday and Wednesday for your fill-in on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head over to our website for more. Well, and welcome to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brendan Labarre, and we are going to be just talking about this game that was. And what we like to do, it's the first period right now, we are going to be just kind of going over the game, going over the things that happened in the game. This is the story of how we got to this 4-2 score for the Detroit Red Wings. And as we're kind of talking along, if you have anything to say, anything to add, look at this. It's a box. If you type anything in the chat, it will show up. Look at this. Look at this. This could be you joining the stream just like that, where everyone can see what you have to say, and we will be a part of the conversation. So starting this game, I think something that was very surprising to me right off the bat was that the Ehlers, Lowry, and Perfetti line stayed together, and they immediately got hemmed in their own zone. And it's one of those things where you're looking at it and it's like, I don't know if, as much as I love Nikolai Ehlers, it's one of those things where you look at it and like the role that they want Adam Lowry to play, it's not the same type of role that Nikolai Ehlers might be suited for on a line. And I think he can definitely kind of grow into it, but there's going to be some rough kind of patches along the way. And as they kind of got hemmed in their own zone, you know, the first period for the Winnipeg Jets was one that they really want to forget. The first thing that's happened is Cole Perfetti immediately blocks a shot. It looks like he's going to be injured. Kind of wobbles off the ice, and you're like, oh, you know, that's just awesome. That's what the Jets need. We're already so banged up on the back end. Let's get some forwards injured. It already looks like Nemestikov's like playing with something, and if Cole Perfetti was to get injured too, that would be just dandy. Luckily, he came back. But the Detroit Red Wings, they start put on a push. They get in there and they start making the Jets' life very hectic. And then the Jets kind of on the PK. One thing that's kind of been going on this season for the Winnipeg Jets is they kind of have these shifts of they have a rough start, but then they get on the PK. I've always said I loved going on the PK when I was playing minor hockey, because that's when you can just skate really fast. You can just like kind of let your legs out, and it can kind of really get you into a game. Especially when your job is to just get the puck and fire it down. It always feels good, and then you just rush to the bench for a nice little change. And then they had this one really nice chance where Morgan Barron kind of went up the boards, was able to get it back to Pionk and get it to Nemestikov. It just took a little too long to put the puck on net. And it was really nice because it's like Morgan Barron in the last few games has really kind of made a push. And at the beginning of the season, he didn't quite look like himself. In the kind of maybe middle of this first half of the season, it was kind of like, oh, he's kind of getting it back. He had to score a couple empty netters to get on the board, but also like he still wasn't quite there. And now he's kind of really found his game, kind of getting on the scoreboard a little more frequently, and he looked really good on that one. And then we're going to talk about a play that I thought was kind of ugly. Logan Stanley goes into the corner with Rasmussen, just straight runs his stick into the guy, which I don't think he deserved that. You know, he is on the other team, but for me, it was just something where it's just like, that's just a dangerous play. Wasn't too happy about that. And then for a player who is so smart, Alex Iafallo with his little holding the stick penalty, just dumb. You can't be doing that at this level. You can't be making that play. And I really liked it in the neutral zone. He was trying to flick up Nemestikov's stick to him, you know, being a good friend, being a good teammate, but you just can't grab onto it. That's just something you can't do. And then on the power play, the Detroit Red Wings come in, and we have Dylan Larkin, who just ripped a shot, Logan Stanley looked like he was trying to block it, but he really didn't want to. And he just lets the puck go by him. And Connor Hellebuck was just screened by our 6'7" man. And then with that, speaking of Logan Stanley, him and Cole Perfetti both hit like the same part of the post, right above Alex Lyon's blocker. And then a really bad case scenario comes. He's been in our lineup, but Colin Miller got hurt towards the end of this period. And with that, the Winnipeg Jets spent the rest of the game down with 5 defensemen, which, I mean, they usually try to double shift Josh Morrissey as much as they can, but I don't think it's ideal to be forced to be put in that situation. And just with you got a lot of players who are put in situations that they wouldn't normally be in. A guy like Ville Heinola just kind of had some highs and lows throughout the game. But overall, that first period, it was awful on the scoreboard. They were down. It was awful in terms of penalties. It was awful in terms of injuries. Like, it just felt really bad to be watching that one. And I think the Detroit Red Wings got to like 17 shots in that period. That's just something, and even if they had a couple power plays, that's not something you can do if you want to have sustainable success in the NHL, no matter who you're playing against. Then we go out to the second period, and the second period looks a lot better. You have the 91, the Perfetti, Ehlers, and Lowry line looks a little better. Go Local Sports team is heartbroken, guys. The Ehlers, Lowry, and Perfetti line looks a lot better. They're getting some good chances. They finally seem like they're clicking. And then Mason Raymond scored a goal that kind of goes off of Pionk sticks. And this reminded me of something. I had a goalie. His name was Julian. And he always said, guys, don't even try to block the shot. Like, if you're going to try and block the shot, it's probably just going to hit you or go around you. And then I'm either screened or I can't track it. It's going to drop right in front of you. And then they're getting a second opportunity that I can't possibly stop. And that's what I kind of thought of when Lucas Raymond kind of just shot the puck off of Pionk stick. I'm like, okay, well, that's just one where, again, Hellebuck, the ones that really beat him are the ones where they just change direction, and that's any goalie. But especially when you have a goalie who's as hard to beat as Connor Hellebuck, it's super tough to put him in those situations. And that's the second one where it's like you really need your defenseman to kind of make a better choice on that, or at least get out of the way. And then the same sort of thing happens for Josh Morrissey. There's a really nice play where the lines are all over the place today in terms of defensemen moving around. Scott O'Neill had the blender going in the third period, but Nino Niederreiter enters the zone, gives it to Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele just makes a nice, smart little play, super simple. Back to Josh Morrissey, takes a shot, and then get out of the way or make sure you block it. And Josh Morrissey's shot goes off Tyler Mott's stick, goes into the net, and the Winnipeg Jets are back in this game. And the second period felt a lot better, even though that the the Winnipeg Jets were still down. The Winnipeg Jets, they said on the broadcast, they outshot Detroit 10-3 in that second period, which felt a lot better. You could feel the push coming, and if they were going to come back, you felt like this is where it was going to happen. And then the third period comes around, and it might be the most mundane period of hockey I've seen from this team in a long time. It reminded me of the Paul Maurice days when, as soon as December hit, it was like, okay, guys, we are done with the season. We're done trying. And it just felt so mundane. They're trying to make plays without purpose. There was one where Kyle Connor is up high, just tries to get Mark Scheifele. There's 3 Red Wings between them. It was never getting there. And then the next goal that happens is we have Patrick Kane getting it over to Alex DeBrincat. And this is one where I love you, Billy, but you cannot get out-muscled by Alex DeBrincat. Alex DeBrincat just puts a stick on the ground. Ville Heinola kind of ties him up. It was kind of a Logan Stanley-esque thing where Logan Stanley, sometimes, he just takes the body. Ville Heinola had the stick, but Alex DeBrincat didn't really need to fight because that's just where he wanted it. He wanted to give Patrick Kane a target to just bounce it off of. And if you're Ville Heinola, you can't be out-muscled by that guy, a guy who is like notably like 5'8", probably is like 170 pounds soaking wet. That's something if you're playing defense in the NHL, you have to have that guy. That's a play that can't happen. And then David Gustafsson hits the post, and I feel like that's relevant because he seems like he's been really working on his shot lately, and he's just had such a heavy shot every single game. It feels like he hits the post every single game. It's just like, poor guy. It seems like, gets one punched against Boston. He feels like he hits the post every game. He's not the most offensive, like, gifted person, but like, come on, guys, just let's try and get him one. And then the Burn Cat comes back on the score sheet by slashing Josh Morrissey. And I thought the first unit, again, a little mundane. They won the first face-off, and you felt like if they were going to get back in this game, this is where it was going to happen. But then they seemed to get some momentum from the second unit. The second unit looked really good on this power play, and they're kind of getting some chances going. They're moving around, doing nice things, and that's what kind of started the kind of rush for the next kind of part in the third period when they're trying to get back in the game, tie the game up. They're down 2. And shift over shift, they're applying more pressure. And then eventually, Vlad Nemestikov, the line blender is out. We had a line of Nino Niederreiter, Vlad Nemestikov, and Ehlers, and they score. Nemestikov makes a beautiful entry, just cuts across the ice to get it back up to Neil Pionk. Neil Pionk takes a shot, hits Nikolai Ehlers' stick, and it goes into the net. And then it was really close. And then you had some just some nice plays, some average stuff, trying to get back into this game with the final push. Some things we liked out there. They were throwing Adam Lowry out there just to, get the left face-off guy coming in, be in front of the net, which I thought, speaking of that, it really brought me back to a different coach, Dave Lowry, when he would just throw him out there all the time. Do you know Adam Lowry's ice time went up about 2 minutes per game once Dave Lowry took over as coach that one year? Fun fact. And then Dylan Larkin gets the empty netter to cap off a 2-goal game. The Winnipeg Jets lose 4-2. And it's just a game where it was very frustrating because it felt like the Winnipeg Jets were just playing so mundane, so loosey-goosey, and you're just like, okay, guys, like I know that you are on this like homestand right now. It just felt like they could have pushed a little bit more, especially with the rest they're getting from not being on the plane every night, every few days, and you just wish that they looked like a first place team tonight, because they looked like they were just like. And it is the kind of dog days of the NHL season, but you're coming against a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. I believe they're 4 points behind Ottawa coming to this game. Not sure how Ottawa finished their game, but they're gonna bring the fight to you, and you have to defend the castle a little bit better. And going on to that, hey, remember, if you have anything to say, you 12 congruent viewers, just hop in the chat, type away, and let me tell you about our Discord channel. We here at Game Over, we have a Discord. It's in the description. You can join it. You can chat with us during the game. There's always people just lurking around in there. And while you're going down there, while you're checking out the Discord, we also have our Patreon. If you want to give us some extra support, you can sign up for that, or a free and easy way to support the Game Over Winnipeg channel or all the other Game Over channels is to just like and subscribe. Super free, easy way. It's buttons below. And also, typing in the chat's another free and easy way to support us, because the more engagement drives us up the algorithm. We get more. See, just like Josh here, this is noted Game Over Winnipeg fan Josh. Even though he's a Leafs fan, he'll watch some of the national ones. He'll watch some of the games. He's always in the chat, having a great time. Sometimes he argues with people about the Leafs, and you know what? That's fine. That's okay. So going into the Go Local Sports, I got the mug for Christmas. Everyone should get the mug for Christmas. Look at these things. They're amazing. All right, period 2. This is part of the show where we talk about more ongoing themes throughout the season. And I just think one of the things I want to talk about was that Lowry, Perfetti, and Ehlers line. And I think it's just the lines have been stuck together on this Jets team. Well, only if they start it. Yeah, Josh. He never goes looking for a fight, but he's always prepared. Yeah, that Ehlers line was kind of fun to watch tonight. Throughout this whole season, they've been so tentative to make changes to the lineup, to the point where it's I have a whiteboard where I write the lines for every game. I could have probably written it in Sharpie instead of the whiteboard marker, because it didn't really change. And it's so nice to see these guys in different roles. Adam Lowry being on that second line gives them a little bit more offensive push. But one thing that you really notice with the Winnipeg Jets is when that third line's not together, I feel like a huge part of the coaching plan kind of goes out the window, because it's like, okay, where's our matchups coming from? especially from a team that really kind of not depends on them, but they are constantly seeking out that. And it feels like it's they kind of lost a little bit of their identity just with that line being together, because it's not the third line kind of going out doing the heavy forecheck, being very direct. And maybe that was kind of on purpose by Scott Arniel. And I think one thing we talked about on Thursday in the Jets game against Anaheim is they're really trying to see what they have. And there was just the lines were flipping all over today, especially when the Jets were looking so mundane, kind of looking like they weren't going, things weren't going great. Let's go. Taupe Daddy says, let's go Red Wings. Yeah, the Red Wings kind of took it to, I don't even know if they took it to the Winnipeg Jets tonight. They definitely beat them. They definitely, I think, were the better team, especially in the first and the third. But, oh my gosh, what am I saying? But I think the Winnipeg Jets also, like, I wish they showed up, because they really did put on a disappearing act. And, you know, congratulations to the Red Wings. They're getting closer back to the playoffs, which I believe they haven't made since the 2016, maybe 2016 season. And that's what, I think they traded Datsuk that year too. And then just, I believe that, and then, yeah, so they're kind of making all these sorts of line changes. We saw lines where we got Coach Dad, do you believe we need more consistent play from the Muffin? I think so. Like, the Muffin, we'll shift to Perfetti then. Coach Dad's saying, do you believe we need more consistent play from the Muffin? Muffin, if you're not from around these parts, Muffin is Cole Perfetti, because every time he shoots the puck, it's a Muffin. When it hits you, it doesn't hurt. And I think that earlier in the season, in between, like in the middle part, like games like 15 to 35, let's say, he was being more engaged on the boards. He was doing some more things, and that kind of brought him into the fight. We talked way back in game number 3 against Minnesota. We talked about Kyle Connor going in and getting engaged in the corners, and that it just made it feel like he was more engaged in the game. He was sharper. He was doing all these things, and that's the same thing with Cole Perfetti, where Cole Perfetti, it felt like he was going to the corners, and like it's not about going to the corners and always muck it up, but it's about being so involved. And today, with all these mundane plays that the Winnipeg Jets were throwing out there, it felt like he was also kind of someone who was just attributing to that. You had him, and also I think Kyle Connor was pretty mundane tonight, except for like those random bursts in the third period. But yeah, I think and just consistent in hockey. Consistent's probably my least favorite word, because consistent just means good. Because it's like when they say, oh, they're lacking consistency, that usually just means, hey, they're not playing very well, if we're going to translate what the hockey commentators are saying. And I just think one thing Cole Perfetti did in the overtime against the Ducks that I really liked when he tried to pull off that move, like the between the legs move, to try and beat the goalie before the net went off and before they came back and Troy Terry scored. But I like that because it showed a lot of confidence around that player, and I hope they're not shying away from that. And I think one thing earlier in the season that was super good for Cole Perfetti's confidence is when he got run from behind by what's his name on Dallas, Bork, and then he goes out and he just runs Logan Stankoven, and then as soon as Cole Perfetti comes out of the box, Scott Arniel says, "Okay, man, you gotta get back out there." Like he just steers him off. He's like, "No, you're staying on." And I think those little confidence boosters, I really hope that after the overtime, they didn't try to steer him away, because like I think we should be encouraging some more mistakes from the man so he can get to the potential he can be at. And if someone just kind of came to the show, welcome. This is Game Over Winnipeg. Please chat away. We have this nice little box here to show you guys and what you're saying. We're just talking about kind of ongoing things for the Winnipeg Jets this season. Another thing I want to talk about too was the kind of homestand that the Winnipeg Jets are on. They are in the second game out of 8 on this homestand. They've lost 3 in a row. They lost these last 2, and I think both in the Ducks game and the Red Wings game, I've said the same thing twice, just kind of mundane stuff. And it seems like you're coming out here, there are teams that are lower than you in the standings, and you're just not taking it to them. You're not kind of taking care of business. And I think when we look back at that really rough stretch in the schedule for the Jets, where it's like, okay, different city every other day, here's a game, here's a game, here's a game. You're traveling every night. It's crazy, it's hectic, and we kind of gave them a little bit more of a pass for that. On the flip side of that, when you have these homestands, when you have these long ones, it's like, okay, we can't give you credit for just going out and giving a good effort on a back-to-back, or going out and, you know, almost winning when you're a part of that road trip. If when you have the better schedule, if when you have the 8-game homestand, you don't perform. It's like you can't have one and not the other. And I just think that that's starting that last stretch they had where they didn't quite get it done in those games when they were on that road trip. We're kind of looking back at that now. Like I'm kind of looking back at that now. It's like, okay, you're starting to lose a little bit of leeway in terms of having the schedule be a, not deterrent, being an excuse, a reason why you haven't performed that well. And I hope that on Tuesday against the Preds, they really show up. And I think they will, because they seem to love playing the Nashville Predators, and the Nashville Predators historically have been able to get the best out of the Winnipeg Jets throughout their history. What else? Let's talk about the defense. Colin Miller got hurt really early in this one, and it really put the Winnipeg Jets in a pretty bad situation in terms of their lineups. They were throwing guys out there. They were double shifting people. They were really trying to make it work. And I think with their defense is it might force Kevin Cheveldayoff to make kind of an earlier trade, because right now we're kind of down to our last 6. We have on the right side, it's DeMello, Pionk, and Dylan Coghlan. On the left side, it is a Morrissey, Heinola, and Stanley. And I think what you'll see is you'll probably see Lundmark probably come up for the Winnipeg Jets. He's someone who is up in training camp, because they're missing Fleury, they're missing Sandberg, and I think either they might go out looking for a trade just to kind of hold things off. Unless Colin Miller is coming back right away, then I think they just kind of keep the people together, keep the team together. And I think with that, we got Josh, the President's Trophy's up for grabs now. Standings really tightened up. Yeah, and I think the Winnipeg Jets, when you start 15-1, and then it gets kind of more close, I think that's on you, because you were the front leader for a long time. And you're not going to win every night, but when you're that far ahead and you lose the President's Trophy at the end of the day, you were 14 games above 500, and it's if you don't kind of hold on to that lead, again, that's kind of showing maybe a dip off of play. And maybe as we get to the playoffs, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and hopefully they can kind of find that consistency and they didn't peak too early. So yeah, the defense, they're going to need to do something about that. Eric Comrie, I would have liked to see Eric Comrie start this game. I don't think they would have stood a chance based on how the Red Wings started in that first period. But they really got to get Eric Comrie more starts. It's looking like Connor Hellebuyck's on pace for about 65 games. Way too much. Stop that. Cut that out, especially when you got 2 goalies in the offseason, Comrie and Kakkonen, to try and find the better one so we could avoid Connor Hellebuyck playing this much. And what else? We could talk about Morrissey. We could hold on to that. I got a couple other things planned for the show. So yeah, let's just get into the third. We're going to talk about trade targets. We're going to talk about Elias Pettersson, and then we're just going to talk about random dudes on the Detroit Red Wings tonight. So before that, let's talk about Game on Winnipeg, because Game Over has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch the Jets, you've got to get your game on too. Game on Winnipeg is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Winnipeg Jets. Debuting soon, hosted by Harrison Lee. Get all your Jets news in under 10 minutes Monday through Friday on the Game Over Winnipeg YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find at our website at the gameovernetwork.com/pages/Winnipeg. All right, let's talk about Elias Pettersson. Elias Pettersson is a forward. We're going over here. Elias Pettersson's a forward for the Vancouver Canucks. Elias Pettersson, Taylor, would they have played differently with Comrie in it? I don't think they would have played differently. I think it's just more about the rest. I think they might have found a different gear, because you never know, but I do think that I just think that they got to get Hellebuyck more rest, truth be told. And Eric Comrie, I think Eric Comrie formerly played on Detroit, would have been a nice thing. I think right now they're just trying to get Hellebuyck's 300th win at home. And I think that shouldn't be a priority for a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations. So let's go into the third, and let's talk about our guy, Elias Pettersson. Elias Pettersson is a player who is an elite player. And we here on Game Over Winnipeg, we're always talking about, hey, remember that Jack Eichel trade? And that's a player who is an elite talent, who's an elite talent without a trade clause. No trade clause for Jack Eichel. You can just trade for him. He doesn't have a choice. Elias Pettersson is the latest person to fit this bill. He is a first-line center. He would instantly be the best player on the Winnipeg Jets, besides Connor Hellebuyck. He is an elite of the elite. Like he scored 102 points one year. Like that's the thing. And it's not just about points, but with a guy with like Elias Pettersson, who's also defensively responsible, a center, and young, because he is about the same age as me. We were both born in 1998. And he is younger than the current Winnipeg Jets core of like Scheifele, Ehlers, Connor, Morrissey. He'd be not just the best player on the team, but he would influence some youth here. And we are going to kind of talk about what I would give up to kind of get Elias Pettersson. And people aren't going to be happy about this, because I think this has the opportunity to be the Jets Huberdeau for Tkachuk trade. And I think when it comes to that, when it comes to getting a player of Elias Pettersson's caliber, I think when the Florida Panthers traded Huberdeau, Weegar, a first, and who was the other guy? Huberdeau, Weegar, a first. Pretty much that was basically the trade for Tkachuk, and then Huberdeau and Weegar signed extensions. People thought they were nuts. People thought that the Florida Panthers were just disgustingly wrong to make that trade, but then they ended up winning the cup. It was proving that getting that elite talent, no matter how many points the guy has, kind of it matters. And I think when it comes to Elias Pettersson, I'm going to type in the trade in the chat and see if people agree with me. I think I would trade, and maybe we can just kind of make this a open thing. I don't know if we'd have to see how this works. What do we think about Connor? And I think that Kyle Connor is kind of like our version of Huberdeau. Is it Connor, Iafallo, and Lambert for Pettersson? And then you got to get a forward back. So I was just gonna say, okay, like what about Kiefer Sherwood? And I think as a starting point, it would be tough, right? They wouldn't. The Winnipeg Jets are not risky people. I don't think they would really enjoy trading a Kyle Connor, but Kyle Connor is the type of guy where it's like, okay, you look at him for so much of his career, he has been a like almost empty calorie goal scorer, and currently he's having the best season of his career. What the value he brings in the trade is he has 2 years left on his contract. Maybe you can get away with doing an Ehlers, but I think with Kyle Connor, it's money in the bank, it's name recognition, it's the counting numbers this year, it's and I think with Lambert, they want a center back. Elliot Friedman reported that tonight. I know he's on NHL center right now, but he is kind of getting out there. IFL is to make the cap work, and then Pettersson and Sherwood counteract the players you're losing, and then also they counteract the cap you're losing, and then just you get the player. Maybe some draft picks have to go either way. Not sure. I'm not a Vancouver fan. I'm not sure how they would think about that. But if you are watching right now, or if you're watching later in sort of a recap, let me know what you think, because I think that, as a guy with Kyle Connor, he has 2 years left on his deal. It seems like the numbers people are talking about is like 10, 11. And I think if you're going to give that money to someone, it might as well be a center who is an elite talent in this league. And I think that's a good one. All right. With that, let's move on to other trade targets. So again, this can still be an open conversation with like Elias Pettersson. Yeah, leave stuff in the comments if you're watching this later, just to kind of give me your thoughts. I'll answer them. We can talk about them on Tuesday, because I'll be hosting Game Over Winnipeg on Thursday as well. With the Red Wings, I was looking at their cap friendly page as well, just like I did with the Ducks on Thursday, and their defense isn't very fun to look at. I think the only player that Jets would kind of be interested in is Jeff Petrie, based on he's a pending UFA. And I think that Jeff Petrie is just completely washed. I think for the forwards, some things stick out to me. Number one, Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin is a lesser form of Elias Pettersson trade. He makes a lot less money and scored 2 goals tonight. Looked really good. One thing I was noticing is with him is you were looking at Dylan Larkin, and Dylan Larkin, we don't even know if he's available, but Nikolai Ehlers, if he's gone at the end of this year, Dylan Larkin's a fast player who's really good at that bumper position on the power play. A second line center, left-handed, really fits the bill. We were talking about him the other day. I don't even know if he's available, but he would be really nice on this team. Patrick Kane's another guy, just he's a pending UFA. We kind of have to talk about him. I doubt he doesn't seem like the type of guy, and I guess I can't really say that because I don't know him at all personally. But that'd be kind of fun to just get a guy like that in on this team. I don't know if he really helps. I don't know if you can have kind of a line of him and Kyle Connor, just kind of guys who aren't the greatest defensively, even though Kyle Connor has taken some strides this year. I don't know if having them on the same team is kind of efficient or even good, and then I think you don't need to get. I think Patrick Kane's also a guy who Patrick Kane is a guy where he needs to be in the first power play unit for you to be effective, for him to be worth it, and I just don't know if the Jets can kind of offer that to him the way their power play is going. Brand New says the Wings won. Holy cow! Yeah, they were pretty good. They definitely scored more goals than the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets did hit a lot of posts tonight, but like that's not any sort of excuse to discredit their win, because it's not like the Detroit Red Wings didn't miss shots either. Hi, and we are just talking about kind of trade targets, but I guess with the Detroit Red Wings kind of creeping up the playoffs, this might also be a moot point. And then other guys looking at is Tyler Mott, just a speedy penalty killer, just a guy that if you might want to have around, if someone gets injured, like if a Morgan Bear gets injured, Tyler Mott might be a guy who can just fill and play some games. Josh said Kane only plays on original 6 teams though. True, only played on Chicago, New York, and the Detroit Red Wings. Maybe there have been talks about him joining Matthews in Toronto. That might be something that Josh would think it would be kind of nice. That actually might be pretty good for them, because that would allow Marner to play on a different line than Matthews, kind of more full-time. What else? Oh, yeah, Tyler. Yeah, and then we talk about Tyler Mott there. That's pretty good. All right. We are going into the 4th period now. The 4th period is the chance where you can talk to me about whatever you want. You can ask me any questions about hockey, non-hockey, anything you kind of think is fun or relevant or exciting, if any questions. And while you guys are typing away some questions, I'm going to be reading our last ad. And what a better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing. Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, or want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get you through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. And I'm just going to take a long sip from my beautiful Game Over Winnipeg mug to show you how lovely it is. It's beautiful. All right, let's see if we have any questions. Nothing yet. What else? Detroit Red Wings. We talked about Robbie Fabry, Detroit Red Wings legend, a little earlier on this week. The Jets played the Predators on Tuesday. That'll be fun. It's always fun to watch the Jets play the Predators. Haven't played them in like a week. They played them on Monday, so that'll be a nice little matchup. They might be looking for revenge. Josh says, I'm a Leafs fan, so I have PTSD. Do you fear the Jets will get bounced in the first round? I think there's always that fear, Josh. And I think like when you watch a team so closely, and I don't know if you feel the same way about your team, I remember watching this team last year, and you're watching them, and you're like, okay, it's one thing to have regular season success, and I think that's a lot of that to do, because there's some playoff teams, there's some regular season teams, and I think when you are a regular season team, a lot of it's because people can't really scout you that well. People can't really go into the things of your game. They're playing like 3-4 games a week, and they can't really nail down how to beat you because you're really more worried about your own system than the opponents. When you get into the playoffs, you kind of go in there and you're like, okay, how do we dig in on these teams' weaknesses? How do we do certain things to make sure they can't get in, or like they can't do what makes them special. We can't do what made them get here. And I think with the Winnipeg Jets, like last playoffs, we saw that with Colorado, where they were like, okay, we can, if we get the Jets like in a rush game, we can totally take advantage of their D. We get them on their heels, we will just blow the socks off these guys. And that's exactly what happened. And even in the game that the Jets won, it was a really back and forth game, super on the rush game. And it was just neither goalie could make a save, and it was about who got the last goal. And I think, am I worried the Winnipeg Jets will get bounced out of the first round? I'm not worried. What I'm worried about is that the Winnipeg Jets are okay with getting bounced out of the first round. My mom just said the QR code never became on the screen. That's true. Look at these. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the products. Sorry. So used to it. Thanks, Mom. So I think it's less about like the fear of being bounced out of the first round. It's more about the fear of what's the team going to do if they get bounced out of the first round. And I think with that, like you saw with the Toronto Maple Leafs kind of years past, where they do get bounced out, but like nothing really changes. You still got the core four, and then the next year the same thing happens, and you're like, okay, well, of course it did. You didn't change anything. You didn't do anything. You didn't actually learn anything. And what I'm worried about the Jets is they've been out in 5 the last few years, and I think you look at the Jets this year, and when they were playing at their best, when they were playing those first few games of the season, they were super efficient. They were able to play many different styles, and they were kind of picking up lessons along the way. I talk about the Seattle game a lot because the Winnipeg Jets in that game showed that they can defend the rush, because the Seattle Kraken were just trying to stretch the ice, and the Winnipeg Jets were getting better at defending that. Josh says, this year is the most confident I felt with the Leafs, so if they lose this year, I might die. Yeah, and I think with the Leafs this year too, like they've definitely seemed like they're more committed to defending a little bit more. And one thing that I used to think as a hockey fan, as someone who's like really noticed, is that you should focus on this is a Steven Stamkos quote, actually. Steven Stamkos, who said, you focus on what makes you special 80% of the time, and what makes you and you will focus on your weaknesses 20%, because what makes you special is what is going to make you win. So you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and you're like, okay, they were especially when in their younger days, they were like Matthews, Marner, Nylander, kind of when they were younger. You look at them and you say, okay, we need to be the best version of ourselves to win the cup. And I think what you kind of look back and realize is, you look at a team like Tampa Bay, and while you can have a style, like they were more rugged and slower, while the Colorado Avalanche were more high flying and rushing. But you do have to be the best at what you are, but you also need to kind of have that more roundabout game. So I think with the Leafs cut, especially, like kind of rounding that out, that might be better. And I think with the Jets, when they were losing last year, when they were having troubles, it's because they couldn't score goals. And the power play the way it is this year, hopefully that kind of counteracts some of the problems they have. And then, I don't even know what this is. Is this LOL Maga or LOL Maga? It says, let's go Red Wings, LGRW. Yeah, good win for those guys today. Excellent. All right, and you know what? I think, no, there's no really on the Red Wings I kind of cheer for. Ben Sherratt's on there. Andrew Kopp, like former Winnipeg Jets, that like not my favorite guys. Their goalies, I don't get to give Terry too much. Moritz Seider being in the playoffs would be kind of fun, I guess, but like I just don't think the Red Wings are they're not built for success long term. Just like they have so many veterans and stuff. I don't like the way that team's built. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap up the show if we don't get any more questions. So my name is Brendan Labarre. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, here we go. Jets will be fine if Jesse Pollock doesn't jinx them again. Jesse Pollock can just, I'm just not gonna listen. he's not my favorite person in the Winnipeg sports media landscape. But you know what? He does have a certain audience, and you know what? That's good. I'm just not. I guess I just don't like the big like homerish side of it. But you know what? He does some good stuff with the Jets, like the skills competition stuff was kind of fun last year. So anyway, yeah, this has been Game Over Winnipeg after Detroit. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the Elias Pettersson trade in the comments below. Do you think it's too much, too little? What would you do to change it? Do you think it's just off the table? You don't want him? You think the Winnipeg Jets are fine the way they are? Our next stream is Tuesday, 7 p.m. It's me again. Ty is not around for a little bit. I think I have most of the games on this road trip before we're done. It's at 7 p.m. So we'll be live at around 9:45-ish. We'll be on right after the whistle. Thank you so much again for watching, and see you guys on Tuesday.